Evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Evermore, your Newcastle United podcast, live exclusively on the Slide Rule Pass YouTube channel. Just the three of us tonight. I'm James. I'll be your host, and this week I'm joined by Adam and Paul. How are we doing, lads? You well?
Doing well.
Yeah,
thanks.
good. Thanks, mate.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Just to remind everyone, as always, we're live on YouTube and Facebook tonight. So any comments, any questions you have, please get them in. And if you like what we do, please like the video and hit that subscribe button to be notified whenever we put out any new content. That would be much appreciated. Right, let's get straight into it then. Firstly, we're going to discuss the Spurs defeat on Sunday. Let's be fair, lads. This was a pretty shambolic performance, all things considered. We were completely shown up on the day, totally capitulated in that second half, and there were some really, really poor individual performances throughout the team. Paul, you did say on last week's show you thought we would lose this game. What was your take on the game, mate?
Yeah, it was a debacle, wasn't it? I'm not taking any pride in calling it. I guess I called a 2-0 defeat, but I think the key that I called was that we wouldn't be able to cope with the pace on the break of Son, Kane, and Kulusevski. It was men against boys second half, wasn't it? We just were too open, and they just hit us and just picked us off at will, didn't they? You know, as soon as we went chasing the game, that was it. Game over for me.
Adam, what did you make the performance, mate?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a tale of two halves for me. I actually think the worst thing we did in that game was score first. Going into the last part of the first half, if that makes sense, I thought we actually looked relatively comfortable. They had a lot of the ball, but they weren't doing anything with it. In fact, I don't remember Dubravka having to make a save before they scored. We sort of woke them up, if you will, by scoring that goal, which was a well placed free kick. It seems to be our favourite spot on the pitch, is taking free kicks from right there. That's the third or fourth goal I think we scored from a free kick right there. But yeah, second half was a totally different game, and I don't know what happened at half time. I don't know if it was, Spurs were energized by that tussle, that little bit of a fight at the end of the half, or whether we just completely lost track. In fact, the mate of mine I was watching it with, right after half time, he said the next 10 minutes is the whole game. If Newcastle can make it through the next 10 minutes, they might even win this. And by the end of that 10 minutes, I think it was 3-1. Just one of those games, one of those moments where we completely lost track of everything. And I'm hoping that's not a characteristic of Eddie Howe. I don't think it is. I think it's a bit early to be saying that. But I do remember some Bournemouth games where, particularly against the top sides, where they completely lost track in the second half. But the inconsistency of Spurs from a month or 2 months ago is really gone now. They're really in form. They're a really, really good side. I think Conte appears to have found the right groove there. So to summarize what Paul said, I wasn't surprised that we lost, but I was a bit disappointed with how it fell apart in the second half.
Got a comment coming in here from Mike. Good to have you on board tonight, Mike. In the second half, we lost our shape. Fully agree with that. Yeah, I mean, look, I thought this was the worst performance of the season, to be honest. Some might say the Leicester game, some might say the Man City game, but for me, this was the worst. I think it was a bit of a reality check. I mean, after that excellent run we had recently, and maybe we were getting a little bit carried away with ourselves, and myself included. I mean, if we're completely honest, if you look at those 8 games we went and beaten, none of them really stand out as a particularly difficult test. I think arguably only West Ham. Was it 10? Possibly. I might be 10, getting there. Yeah, maybe 10, maybe 9, maybe 8. I'll have to check that one. But no, I think it was 8, because after the Cambridge game, including that one, it was 8. And, if you look at the Watford game, fine, that might have been 9. But in the Man United game, that could have been 10. But look, I do think if we look at those games, though, I think really only West Ham away could be considered a difficult test. And look, you've got to be honest, you expect us to go and beat teams like Leeds, Everton, Brentford and Brighton. Yes, it was a great one. I'm not taking anything away from it, but I just think we did come up against a top-class, in-form side in Spurs who, let's face it, have a world-class manager. And let's be fair, we were found out. And I just think it reiterates how important it is to get this summer transfer window right. Because we have to be spending 250 million plus in order to get that next level and to be competing with the likes of Spurs. And I do think that trip to Dubai hadn't really done us any favours this time also. To me, it looked like a lot of the players just took their foot off the gas. There was far too much complacency on Sunday, and it feels like that momentum we had going into that Chelsea game has just completely gone now. And I don't think it's time to start panicking, but I do want to see us bounce back on Friday. And I really hope Eddie Howe has got stuck into these players in training this week, because that performance on Sunday for me was just unacceptable. Just a quick one before we move on. I just want to ask the two of you, what's your thoughts on Chris Wood so far? Some fans have been heavily critical of him, saying he just isn't good enough. On the other hand, some fans are saying he just isn't getting the service in the team right now. Paul, what's your thoughts on Chris Wood, mate?
It's a little of both. I don't think he does himself any favours. He's incredibly immobile. I don't want to try and compare him to Callum Wilson, although of course he cost £5 million more than him. But he's immobile. He's not winning headers. He's not holding the ball up. He should be holding the ball up and bringing the likes of Willock, Saint-Maximin into play as late runners from, out wide for Saint-Maximin and almost from the number 10 position for Willock. And he just doesn't seem to be doing any of that. The trouble is we don't really have any options. We've got Dwight Gale, who's had 8 minutes, I think, of Premier League football. And, he's good enough for the Championship. He's not good enough for the Premier League. Who else are you going to play there? That's the problem. He'll be, he might not be gone in the summer, but we will certainly be replacing him, firstly with Wilson, and secondly, probably with a big, maybe not a big name centre forward, but certainly with a replacement that is more mobile, that has a better touch and knows where the goal is. He just doesn't seem to know where the goal is. But on the flip side, he looked isolated, didn't he, on Sunday? So is Chris Wood good enough? Absolutely not. He's just a bit crap.
Adam, how about you, mate? Do you think he's doing enough right now in this team?
Well, I think two things can be true at the same time. So I think it can be true that he is probably not good enough for where this team wants to be, maybe even next year. But it can also be true that he isn't getting very good service. I mean, I can't remember more than 2 or 3 chances that he's missed. He missed a pretty good header against Everton, which probably would have changed that game completely in the first half. He may have missed 1 or 2 other chances. So he's not getting the chances, but a really good striker will create their own opportunities. I had a football coach 100 years ago that said all good strikers get 1 good chance every game. And that's not happening for Chris Wood. So it's a bit of his quality, but also a bit of the service we're providing. We're not used to playing with a big target man centre forward. We've really not done that for a few years. But I'll second and third what Paul said. There is no other choice right now. Dwight Gale is not a Premier League striker. I don't think he would add anything if you tried to play him 2 or 3 games in a row. What might be interesting, if we are at a point where we are safe with a couple of games to go, you might see some of these squad players getting the start or getting longer on the pitch. I really hope that's the case, because it will mean that we're safe. Not counting our chickens yet. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Paul. A, he's not very good, and B, he's not getting very good service. So it's sort of a match made in hell right there.
He had a 1-in-2 goal ratio at Leeds, albeit it was in the Championship. But, we're looking at that being 5-6 years ago, and he's 5 or 6 years older. I don't know how old he is, 28, 29, maybe. Is he tipping 30?
Yeah.
Just isn't mobile enough, and when you are, I think, Adam, you'd said it yourself, or James, you need to create chances for yourself. You need to come deep and pick the ball up. You don't see him coming particularly deep to get the ball and then play it out wide. He just sort of lumbers about up there like a player that is devoid of confidence.
Put it this way, James, or rephrase the question a little bit. I think that if you would ask the question of at the beginning of the season or in the summer or whatever, under what circumstances would Newcastle consider signing Chris Wood? These are the only circumstances where we were absolutely desperate for a striker. We had just lost our number 9. We were bottom or second bottom from the league in the January transfer window with inflated prices. And we knew of a striker who had played in the Premier League who had a release clause that we didn't have to negotiate. All of those things had to be in the situation for us to be interested in signing a guy like Chris Wood. Even at the beginning of the season, when we only had Callum Wilson, I doubt Chris Wood would have been very high on anyone's list of strikers that we should sign. So I think the context is important here. This was the exact and probably the only situation where a club like Newcastle would sign a player like Chris Wood, even though previous seasons he's had a pretty good record of scoring goals. That's just not a situation that Newcastle would have got themselves into had it not been under these circumstances.
And I think it's that double-edged. I think it's that double-edged sword as well. with regards to weakening Burnley as well. Of course, they've gone and signed Weghorst now.
Who's been crap as well, by the way.
He's been fairly crap. Yeah, they've scored 1 goal apiece. So did they weaken Burnley to strengthen Newcastle? They certainly didn't strengthen Newcastle. Did they weaken Burnley? Very possibly. He's a horses for courses kind of, Burnley's play is very different to us. So they probably have weakened Burnley in that respect, and Burnley are not, they're potentially in real danger of getting relegated, and that may be
interesting to see
we
how
may
they
have
get on
nudged on
tonight.
them there. Yeah, Burnley
Against
Everton
Everton.
tonight, innit? That's a biggie.
But I do go back to Wood. I don't think it's a confidence thing, because he's putting them in for fun playing for New Zealand. He's scoring regularly for them. Obviously, I'll be at a different level, completely different level.
You're playing monkey tennis. The countries they're playing against.
Look, the simple fact is he's not good enough, and look, we've got to go after two strikers in the summer, 1 minimum, two hopefully we can get 2, but it's going to be difficult to get a top class striker in the summer window, depending on the likes of your Darwin Núñez, your Alexander Isaks we've talked about before being possible replacements. But that leads us nicely into topic number 2, bit of Toon transfer talk, specifically talking about Allan Saint-Maximin. Now, there have been a few reports this past week claiming that we are considering selling him in the summer, and we would be willing to listen to offers of around the £50 million mark. Paul, I'll come to you first. Would you sell Maximin in the summer?
Horse shit. Absolutely not. I am adamant, and I've been telling people for as long as they wanted to listen. They might get bored of me saying that now. He's a game changer for us. He's massively frustrating. He doesn't track back enough. We know that. But did David Ginola track back enough? Did Ben Arthur track back enough? Did Laurent Robert track back enough? No, they didn't. When you've got a talisman with the talent that he's got, you just don't sell them. I think the summer, as you said, we could go and spend 250 million quid on better players to play around him. I think, and I'll keep saying it, he knows the players he's playing with are not good enough. Because of that, I believe he's just trying too hard to beat too many players, because he knows that if he gives the ball to perhaps a Willock or a Longstaff, or dare I say it, a Shelvey or a Joe Linton, if he gets a nosebleed getting into the box, then he knows nothing's going to happen. So he's just trying to beat too many players, and he's running around too many dark alleys for me at the moment. Would I sell him? No, I wouldn't sell him. We don't need the money. 50 million quid or 10 million quid is just a bit irrelevant, really. We're still going to be within financial fair play, whatever we do. So I think you keep him, and you build a team around players like him, players like Bruno. And as you'd intimated off camera earlier on, which I'm going to steal somebody's thunder, is that he has that understanding with Callum Wilson. So when Callum Wilson is back, or we get a better striker in the summer, hopefully he can pick up that relationship with a better striker with better movement to give him more options.
Adam, what's your thoughts on ASM? I mean, the flip side to Paul's argument is some fans will say he just doesn't do enough defensively in this team. And in modern day football, the way teams play now, you've got to just do a little bit more than being creative. Would you be willing to let him go in the summer if we got, say, 50, 60 million pounds for him?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't think we would, because naturally fans of the home team are incredibly biased and lose all perspective when it comes to transfer fees. So I'm a bit on the fence about ASM. He's done some wonderful things for Newcastle. He's our best attacking talent, probably. But I'm a little bit curious about whether he's an Eddie Howe kind of player. I just wonder if Eddie is willing to have a player in his team who he knows is only going to do half of the tactics. He's only going to play the fun half of the tactics, if you will. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I think you can tell that ASM looks frustrated on the pitch. He looks uncomfortable in his own half. Some of that, to what Paul said, is because he knows he's not playing with players of the same standard that he is. But if you reposition the question, you said, if you could sell Allan Saint-Maximin for whatever, 30, 40, 50 million, and replace him with a player in the same price range who has the same attacking talent, but gives you some of the other side of the ball as well, would that be a trade you were willing to do? Again, I'm not answering that question. I'm just saying it's another way of looking at it. He gives us something that very few teams have, which is an unpredictable outlet for the ball. The problem is, particularly recently, and again, fans are always have very short memories. He's just running the ball out of pitch. He's running into players. He's running down cul-de-sacs. He's not doing all the things that make him a special player. And if that is a long-term frustration with the style of play, that's a big problem. If that's just him being a bit crap at the minute, that's a whole different problem. So it's going to be really interesting this summer to see if that picks up steam. But if he's going to someone like West Ham or Everton or Leicester, those are some of the names I've seen, they're not going to pay 50 million for him. I don't think. I'm not sure Everton's going to be able to pay anything for anybody this summer. So I don't see someone like Real Madrid coming in at 50 million, Barcelona 50 million. People aren't going to be spending 50 million in this summer, other than Newcastle potentially, and maybe Man City and the very, very top teams really in England. I think for the most part, it's going to be the English clubs and PSG maybe spending this summer. So that was a long-winded way of saying I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm completely on the fence. If we can get 50 million for him and replace him with a player that does both sides of the ball, I would take that. No one is irreplaceable for me.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for me. I'm with you, Paul. I don't think we need to sell our superstars anymore. We aren't a selling club now, simple as that. He's got 4 years left on his contract, I believe. He's still relatively young at 25. People still forget that. And as you rightly say, Paul, with better players around him next season, I do think we'll start to see the best of him again. But look, I will say, repeat what you said, he hasn't been particularly good this season. But I do put that down to the injury to Wilson. Those two have a great chemistry. It's undeniable. They trust each other. They know each other's strengths. They know exactly where the other one is going to be. And unfortunately, that chemistry, that synergy, it just isn't there with him and Chris Wood. And I do believe that playing alongside Wood this season has affected his game. Personally, I don't think Wilson will play again this season, to be honest. And of course, we all know we will be prioritising a new striker in the summer. So it will be interesting to see what happens with Maximin moving forward. But I do believe he still has a lot more to give to this football club. Just another reminder, the midway point of the show, we are live on YouTube and Facebook. So any comments, any questions you have, please get them into us. And if you could also like the video, hit that subscribe button to be notified whenever we put out any new content, that would be much appreciated. Right, moving on to topic number 3. We're going to talk about Dan Ashworth. It's been reported this week that he could be made to wait until as late as November before taking up the role of sporting director at the club. Negotiations with Brighton seem to be ongoing, but nothing has been agreed yet. This really seems to be getting dragged out now. I think we originally linked with him back in November, I believe, after the takeover. When look, we're into April now. Still no official word yet. It sounds like Brighton are unwilling to release him from gardening leave unless we do pay a significant sum of compensation. Adam, I'm going to come to you first. Are you getting a little bit concerned by these delays now?
I am. Yeah. I mean, they targeted Dan Ashworth 3 or 4 months ago. They made it quite clear, I think, that he was the priority for the front office. And right, wrong, or indifferent, they've not been able to get the deal over the line. I think the deal with Dan Ashworth is probably done and negotiated, but the fact that they've not been willing to pay the money or to compensate Brighton or to negotiate a compensation deal is a bit concerning. But I think it's actually part of a bigger concern that I have, that they've just not made these appointments in the front office at all. They've talked about a CEO to go alongside Dan Ashworth as the sporting director, and they've not been able to do that yet. I don't know if it's just part of the course, if it's COVID related, if it's the economy, or whether it's geopolitical. I don't know if any of those factors play any part in appointing CEO of a football club. Maybe it does, but I am a little bit concerned that this summer, not from a transfer standpoint, I'm not worried about the transfers this summer, first team squad, but I'm just worried about the project being delayed, that the overall project, redeveloping the academy, redeveloping the training ground, the culture of the club, and all of those things they're trying to build a real identity again for Newcastle United. The longer we go without these appointments being made, I think that the longer that trajectory gets slowed down, which is concerning. I think in the end we'll get Dan Ashworth, and in the end it will probably be before November. But if we go much into next season, I think that is a bit concerning for the overall perspective of the project that they're all trying to work on.
Paul, what's your thoughts on this? Do you see any potential stumbling blocks? Do you see this possibly falling through at the 11th hour, or do you think that everything will be fine in the end?
No, I think it's done and dusted. I think it's over the line, to be honest. I think that, so I work in an industry where people are put on garden leave all the time. And, I know for a fact that when somebody's on garden leave, they're not really sitting in the garden with their thumb up their backside. They're already planning, they're already in communication with their new employers, and they're already making the plans that need to be made. Yeah, it's not formal, it's not announced, he's not in the hot seat and hasn't got an apartment on the quayside yet, right? But it ain't gonna fall through. There's no way, if it's gonna cost another 3, 4, 5 million quid to release him from that garden leave or whatever it might be, or his contract effectively, then they're gonna pay it, right? There must be something else happening there. I'm with Adam in terms of the plans for the academy, the plans for the infrastructure, etc. I think that they do need to appoint the CEO. They need to appoint this director of football. But the quicker wins for me are people like Kevin Keegan, Alan Shearer, players that can act as ambassadors. Who's going to sell the project in the summer? That concerns me a little bit. Of course, we haven't got European football next season. And when you're looking at the kind of players that we're throwing about as fans, other club, Darwin Núñez is going to cost what, 70, 80 million quid maybe. He played Champions League and scored for Benfica last night. Yes. Why is he going to come to Newcastle? He's going to come to Newcastle if somebody can sell him that dream. One of my most hated footballers of all time at Newcastle United was Michael Owen. Absolute leech. Took 110 grand a week from us. How did we sign him? He didn't want to really come here. How did we sign him? Because his bestie, his England pal, Alan Shearer, went and met him up at Longhurst or wherever it was in Morpeth and went for a walk with him and sold him the dream of playing in front of 52,000 Newcastle United fans. Just don't know if we've got anybody that can do that at the moment, whether that's Ashworth or whether that is a Kevin Keegan. I'd love a Kevin Keegan kind of player who would sell that dream. Can anybody sell the dream of Newcastle better than him? For me, I think not. I'd like somebody like that in play quite quickly into from May onwards, whether it's on a contractual basis or whatever. But, Kevin Keegan to walk over hot coals to come and be a part of what we've got now. He's said it many, many times. Have they approached him? Have they spoken to him? I just really don't know. I get that it takes time to put these key, the Ashworths of this world, who are key long-term strategic appointments in play. But there's some quicker wins there that can help us, I think, facilitate the infrastructure and the project moving forward a lot quicker as well. So am I concerned? Will it fall over? No, of course it won't. We've got more money than God.
Really good points there, Paul. Another comment coming in there from Mike Brighton. Have spat their dummy out. Yeah, well, look, it appears so with this. This one could go on a little bit longer, couldn't it? Personally, I think they've just got to pay the money. You really do need this guy in place come 10th of June when the transfer window opens. I don't think this sum has been disclosed yet, how much it would cost. I wouldn't want to hazard a guess. It's not my area of expertise. Look, maybe it's a principle thing. The stance in the club, and fair enough, I guess I can't blame them for that, not wanting to pay this compensation. Personally, if it was me, though, just pay the money, get him in now, let him get to work, because this transfer window, this summer transfer window is so important and crucial to our development as a football club. You want everything in place to make it as perfect as possible. Right, moving on to the final topic tonight, we're going to look at the Wolves preview. Friday night, we welcome Wolves to St James's Park for what will be the first of 3 home games in a row. We've got a really, really good opportunity here to bounce back in this game. Bruno has to start this one for me. I thought it was a big mistake from Eddie Howe to leave him out on Sunday, and Shelby has to drop to the bench. Wolves have had a pretty decent season. Some might say they've punched above their weight again. But look, they can be beaten. Leeds proved that a couple of weeks back in what was another Friday night game. Raul Jimenez was sent off in that one, which means he'll also miss this game against us. Ruben Neves has been ruled out for the majority of the rest of the season. So that's 2 key players missing for them. And look, we've got to take advantage of that come Friday night. Adam, I'm going to come to you first, mate. How do you see this game going?
Boy, it's difficult to predict because I don't know which Newcastle's going to show up. I don't know if the Newcastle from the 9-match unbeaten run is going to show up, or the first half against Everton, or the second half against Everton. We've just hit this sort of Jekyll and Hyde period of the evolution of Eddie's team. So I think you're right. I think Bruno has to start. Absolutely, he was our best player on the pitch in the second half of that game, which was a pretty low bar, to be fair. I think Wolves are struggling for injuries. They may well, they've not got a big squad. I think they might run out of steam as the season draws on. So we might catch them a bit unawares. But look, they're a top 8 team. They're a really good football team. They've got a great manager who has exceeded expectations. Missing those 2 players didn't hold them back at the weekend. They played really well against Villa, won that game pretty convincingly. So it's tough. I think if you offered me a score draw right now, to be honest with you, I might take it. It would just feel good to have points again instead of another defeat. I think we're getting to a point though, and I know this is not necessarily the question right now, but when it comes to safety versus not safety and all of that fun stuff, I think we're getting to the point now where it might be more about the teams in the bottom 3 not accumulating points more than it is about Newcastle accumulating points. I don't want us to go on a 7-game, 8-game losing streak or anything like that. I'm just saying that, after tonight, you're going to have a real interesting view, I think, of whether are 3 of Everton, Burnley, Norwich, and Watford, are 3 of them going to get more than 31 points? I don't know. We might already, mathematically, we might already be technically safe, not through our own high level of play, but just because the other teams are going to run out of games. I think if Burnley lose tonight, I hate wanting Everton to win. I can't stand Frank Lampard. It's a separate issue. But if Everton win tonight, all of a sudden Burnley are looking at 9 games. Are they going to get 10 more points from 9 games? That's half their total for the season. I just don't know. So I really hope we win. I think if we win and Everton win tonight, then by the weekend we are virtually there, which will feel great. But if Burnley win tonight and we lose on Friday, I won't be the only one getting a little bit nervous.
Paul, how about you, mate? You'll be there, like I will. We're going to be having a few beers before the game tomorrow night. Looking forward to that one. How do you see this one going? Can we get a result?
Yeah, I think we can get a result. I've got the league table up in front of me here, and I didn't realise that Wolves they're only 5 points off 4th. So it's not like they're on the beach. Unfortunately, usually in 8th at this time of the season, they're pretty mid-table, but it's bloody close. They are really, they're 2 points behind Man United there. They haven't got a very good goal difference, in fairness. But without Neves, without Raul, they're going to, Raul is their focal point. They've got Fabio Silva, I think the guy cost 35 million from Portugal. And God, maybe I'm being an idiot here, but he's fucking rubbish. Has he scored 1 goal for them from a penalty since he signed to replace Diego Jota? He's not very good. They've got some very good footballers, though. Moutinho's coming at the end of his days at 34, 35, whatever, but he's still a quality footballer. Dendonker's a quality footballer. They're solid with 3 centre halves, aren't they? So can our lone wolf at the front there, Chris Wood, trouble 3 centre halves, and Connor Cody's a top class centre back. And players like Daniel Podence, who I love Daniel Podence. I think he's a really intelligent, attacking minded footballer. So they've got some very good players, but we're under the lights Friday night. The atmosphere will be a little boozy, but absolutely electric with the lights on. And I just think that, Wolves players won't be overawed by that. But, as a fan base, we're all together now. We're all collective. We're behind the owners. We're behind the, we're behind the manager. We haven't lost at home since maybe Chelsea prior to Christmas. I think I'm probably right with that. So, like Adam said, yeah, point would probably be a good result. A lot depends tonight. I think Everton, really, we need Everton to win tonight. I don't think Everton are going to go down. I think they'll just have enough firepower to stay up anyway. So if that's going to be the case, then we don't want Burnley picking anything up tonight. And Adam's right. If we can pick up that win, and I think Watford have got a tough game at the weekend as well, if I remember rightly. Burnley are on 21 points, Watford on 22 points. If we can get that win on 34 points, that we're safe, right? the other teams below. 31 might be enough to keep us up, but as Adam said, we don't want to end the season with a run of 7 or 8 or 9 games without a win and the odd draw here and there. So I think we can win that. I think Leicester are a bit flaky, mid-table. They've been massively underperformed. Palace might be the hardest of those 3 games. They look really impressive. I mean, I didn't see the game I saw a little bit of game on Monday night at home to Arsenal. They stripped them a new one, didn't they? So I think they're a pretty impressive team, Palace, but I just think we need to go at it. They'll have had an absolute rocket, as you said earlier, James, in training this week from Howe. Howe won't accept people being on the beach already that we're safe. He's saying publicly that we are not safe when we're still in that relegation dogfight. So I think we will really have a go at them. I think players like Saint-Maximin, players like Fraser, players like Bruno will come in and he'll play the next 3 home games and probably will start every game for the rest of the season now, as long as he's fit and doesn't get red carded or whatever, or suspension. I think we'll have a real go at them. We've not really got anything to lose in that respect. So I think, 3 home games on the bounce, they'll be massively up for it. The crowd will be great. Wall flags will be impressive. They've got 400, 500 flags, I think. I read somewhere. So, yeah, I think we'll go at them and I think we'll win. I think we'll win 2-1. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I think overall probably a draw would probably be the most likely outcome in this one. We are coming off the back of 3 defeats. Morale isn't exactly high right now in the camp, especially after Sunday. But I do think we can bounce back and get something from this. Look, if we can get at them from kick-off and play like we did against Everton, we'll win this game. It's going to be tight, very tight, as defensively, Paul, as you said, they are very good. But I fancy us to sneak it in and win this 1-0. But yeah, very much looking forward to this one. A Friday night game is always something special. Paul, you touched on the next 3 home games there, the Leicester game, the Crystal Palace game there as well. Adam, I'll come to you quickly on that. Have we got a target 4-6 points from these next 3 home games? What do you think? Yeah,
I think any more than 4 is a really good return. So, 4.5 is the over under. I'd love the over on that. But again, I get the feeling that the last handful of games are going to be more about the teams in the bottom 3 just not being able to win than about us like growing off our own base. There's a pretty good chance that 31 points actually would be 17th place. So we'll see how it goes. But I'd love to get more than 4 points.
Can I pose a quick question in regards to that? Had we got that point at Chelsea, which we could have easily got 74 minutes before Havertz had a shot on target, he shouldn't have been on the pitch, as we know, should have had the penalty, etc., etc. Had we got a point there, had we got a point or even 3 at Everton, would we still be saying 4 points would be a great return? Or is it because we're coming off the back of 3 defeats on the hoof that we're thinking we need to stop the rot a little bit and any old point will do?
I think the mindset has changed, hasn't it, recently? I mean, I was talking on this show not so long ago about we've got to be targeting 10th this season. I mean, the way we were playing. I mean, after that Southampton game, the 2-1 win there, an extremely good performance. I was thinking, look, we're just going to be looking at the table here. I think the wheels are starting to slightly come off recently. Look, I mean, that Chelsea game, the miscarriage of justice, really, really affected the players mentally. I think the Everton game, they didn't look right that night, and something's obviously happened again with the Spurs game. But I just think we've got to come in with a new mentality, a new mindset in this game on Friday night, and turn the season around, because this 10th isn't out of reach right now. You look at teams like Brighton; they're dropping like a stone. Villa are so flaky; they're up and down. Personally, I think you've got to target 6 points from these next 3 games, as you rightly say, Paul. Crystal Palace are a different kettle of fish. They're a really good side. I think we might struggle against them, but I don't see why we couldn't go out and beat Wolves and then beat Leicester, and then you're going back to looking up the table, not looking down.
Leicester are still in European football, yeah.
Yeah. They play
the quarterfinals of the whatever
Thursdays.
it is. Is it the Europa League or the European Nations League, whatever you want to call it?
Conference League.
They're in. So they want to win that. I don't know if that guarantees European football next season. It must do, I suppose. They want to win that, right? And they're so Leicester at 10th at the minute. Okay, they've only played 28 games. They've actually got a bit of a fixture backlog as well. Most of the teams now played 30, other than sort of Burnley as well, who have got their 29th game tonight. So Leicester, you've got to look at as a real opportunity. They'll allow us to play Leicester. They won't shut up. Wolves will be difficult because they're tight. They're tight to play against, and they like to hit you on the break, a little like Spurs did on Sunday. Leicester will let you play, so if you get at them and go at them, then you've got a chance of beating them. And Palace, I don't know. Palace were one of my favourites for relegation this season. I don't think Vieira's done nothing wherever he's been, and he's done a phenomenal job. You know, talk about Eddie Howe being manager of the season. I think Vieira's done incredibly as well. So, yeah, 6 points. Oh, let's go for 9 points. Let's do it. I don't think it's a change in mindset. I think Everton, we were just leggy and tired and needed that breather for the international break. And I think Tottenham were just too good for us. I don't think that there was any change in aptitude. I don't think they thought they were on the beach. I just think that Tottenham were just too bloody good, hitting us. They sucker punched us and just hit us on the break. And then we lost all of our formation and shape. I think, you know, Friday's a new game at home under the lights. I think we go for it. And I think we go for 2 wins, 3 wins over the next 3 home games. Why not?
Adam, quick thoughts on Paul's question there before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hope Paul is right. Obviously, I would love us to get 2 or 3 wins out of these next. And I, you know, that I do believe that the Spurs game was a bit of a one-off. I really hope that's the case anyway. I agree as well that Everton, we just looked absolutely exhausted, particularly in the second half when we needed to win the game instead of playing against 11v11. So, yeah, I mean, I think that had we got points in those 2 games coming into this run, we wouldn't be so worried about it. But again, I want to control our own destiny, which means putting points on the board and fuck everybody else. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Good stuff. Right, well, I think that just about does it for this week's show. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on another Evermore. We do appreciate all the views and all the comments. Again, if you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out. Many thanks to Adam and Paul for your time tonight, lads. Chris will be back on hosting duties on next week's show, and we look forward to seeing you all again next Wednesday night at the usual time of 6:30. See you guys. Catch you soon.
Thanks, James.